over 55 years, your source for agribusiness news and features from around the Southeast and across the country, focusing on one of the nation's top industries, agriculture. The Farm Monitor is produced by the Georgia Farm Bureau in association with Abraham Baldwin Agricultural College.
Well, when it comes to important subject matters, this particular show is stacked from top to bottom. Hi, everybody. Thanks for tuning into the Farm Monitor. Ray DeLessio and Jennifer Parson at your service.
Yeah, so much to cover, including this. As avian influenza hits Georgia's poultry industry, what does it mean for farmers, consumers, and egg prices? The latest on this growing concern. Deer and livestock sharing the same field. Should farmers be worried about chronic wasting disease? The answer may surprise you. Plus,
well, hey everybody, I'm Ranger Nick, and coming up a little bit later, I'm hanging out in Plains, Georgia in front of a mountain of peanut seeds. I'm experiencing what Georgia seed development does to maintain foundational seed before that peanut gets in the ground. That and so much more starts right now on the Farm Monitor.
Since 2022, a nationwide avian influenza outbreak has claimed nearly 150 million birds. While always a concern for Georgia producers, alarm has risen with its first detection in commercial flocks within the state. Damon Jones reports on the efforts to mitigate the risk and its impact on farmers and consumers.
Poultry production is big business here in Georgia, accounting for more than a quarter of the state's agricultural income. So when a threat like the avian influenza finds its way into commercial production here in the state, industry experts, government officials, and most importantly, farmers all work together in addressing the problem quickly.
I believe they have a really high level of awareness of the role that they play in preventing the disease, the virus, from entering the farm. I think there's a high level of concern, but it's grounded in a lot of education and outreach that's been going on for many years.
It's a big concern for the poultry industry. It affects our exports, it affects our market, so we want to make sure that we stamp it out as soon as possible. So along with the Georgia Department of Ag and USDA, we have a very strong team to do this quickly.
After the infected flock has been depopulated by the state agricultural response team, the priority then shifts to preventing the virus from spreading to surrounding operations. That's when the Georgia Poultry Lab gets cranked up, testing thousands of birds in that area.
What we have to do is make sure that the virus has not spread to a 10-kilometer or about 6-mile radius around that farm or beyond. So the response includes surveillance of all those farms. So we have to test 22 birds per house for all of those dozens and dozens of farms that are around that infected premise.
While this outbreak can be contained in the short term, it is a major concern that might stretch into the future.
You know, it's in wildlife, so it's not like we can stop it very quickly because the source of virus is in the wild birds and the migratory waterfowl, etc. So it's hard to tell exactly when we're going to get out of this because the viruses have their life cycles through wildlife. So it's very difficult to tell when we're out of it. So I think we always have to be vigilant and always be looking for it, basically.
Consumers are certainly feeling the effects of this most recent bout with avian influenza, as egg prices have soared to more than $4 per dozen.
Late October of 2024, in our nation, we've lost between 30 to 40 million hens that are producing eggs that we eat. And so just to give you some context on that, when our nation's flock is fully supplied or stocked to meet the demand, we can be around 320 million hens. So it's a very significant reduction in the supply.
While the prices for these items might be alarming, their safety shouldn't be, as each product goes through rigorous testing before heading to market.
We test a lot of chicken. We test all the flocks anyway. Even when we don't have avian influenza around, we test every single flock before they go to market. And then if we find it, we stamp it out. So no, there is no danger of this getting into the food supply at all.
Reporting from Gainesville, I'm Damon Jones for the Farm Monitor.
avian influenza was also a topic of discussion at the annual Ag Forecast in Tifton. However, it wasn't the only concern. Here now, the Monitor's John Holcomb with the complete recap.
2024 was certainly a difficult year for Georgia farmers and producers as they faced low commodity prices, high operating costs, and devastating hurricanes, things experts say have left farmers struggling with historically low income.
The real challenge at the beginning of the year was lower prices, and crop prices in particular compared to livestock prices. And they were falling rapidly from the 2022 highs, so the farm revenue or cash receipts was going to be down anyway. And then we were hit with natural disasters, Hurricane Helene in particular, that wiped out, in my estimation, about 38% of the crop receipts, revenue receipts for Georgia agriculture. So the 2024 whole year, together with the price decline and the disaster, has been a very, very challenging year. The net cash income for Georgia producers is probably going to be historically low.
To make matters worse, Munasamy says that those challenges from 2024 will unfortunately carry over into this year, which will create more difficulties for producers, especially when it comes to working capital.
The first thing is the low prices that I talked about at the beginning of 2024, they're going to continue into 2025. The second thing is working capital that you need to operate your farm is down 6.9% nationally. But given that we lost a significant amount of revenue because of Hurricane Helene, our farmers are going to be even shorter on working capital. So for them to get their machines up and running, the infrastructure put in place, buy seeds, buy fertilizers, they're going to be very challenged.
However, the livestock sector has had a different tale to tell, as last year the cattle inventory remained low, which kept prices high, a trend experts say will continue this year.
We're seeing those tight supplies should continue through 2025. That's going to support those higher prices again going forward into 2025. We've already seen that at the cow-calf level, where we're seeing prices up 15-20% year over year again at the beginning of 2025.
For poultry, Secor believes the industry, as it typically does, will remain strong this year, but says there is some uncertainty as avian influenza continues to spread, which Secor says for now has continued to only affect egg prices.
Because of chicken's lower price at the meat counter in grocery stores, we expect that the chicken demand is probably going to remain relatively strong. That being said, if we run into any HPAI issues, that could hurt some of the production and might raise prices going forward. The biggest effects that we're seeing right now is in eggs. Those prices have been up since about mid-November. Those have been up about 40%, depending on where you are in the country. So those prices are going to be the biggest direct effect. Usually egg layers seem to be the most impacted by HPAI. We're starting to see some more in commercial broiler production that could potentially have an impact in chicken prices, but right now we haven't seen that in the data, at least to this point.
Reporting in Tifton for the Farm Monitor, I'm John Holcomb.
After the break, can CWD spread from deer to livestock? The Georgia DNR sets the record straight.
Hey y'all, the Georgia General Assembly has convened again in Atlanta, and because Georgia Farm Bureau is the voice of Georgia farmers, we at the state capitol every day standing for farming families across the state, just like we've done since 1937. Our mission in Georgia Farm Bureau is to work with elected officials by ensuring farmers are able to produce exceptional products that feed families in Georgia and around the world. Our commitment has always been to the producers in our state, enabling them to provide safe, fresh food and fiber that we all need to survive. Thank you for supporting Georgia Farm Bureau, and if you're not a member, consider becoming one now by scanning the QR code you see on your screen or visit gfb.org and look for the Join Today button. Thank y'all again.
Porter, and we are at one of my favorite places on the ABAC campus, which is at the Data Farm. The Data Farm stands for Demonstrating Applied Technology in Agriculture. And one of my very favorite spots on the Data Farm is under this pecan tree. This is the place where all of us come and meet whenever we come out here for labs. It's a great meeting spot for the students. We hang out under the shade while we start talking about all the cool technology that we're going to be using out on the farm, and then we're right here and we can jump right in and start doing it. Some of the things that we do on the Data Farm is using all of this technology in agriculture. So some of the things that we already have here is one of the state-of-the-art new Valley pivots with a weather station and a variable frequency drive pump. And we do all of our data-driven agriculture out here. So we collect lots of data through soil moisture sensors, through sensors on vehicles, and we do site-specific management on this piece of property. Here on the Data Farm, it is a perfect place for our students to get hands-on experience with all of the new tech that's coming out in ag before they actually enter into the industry.
Chronic wasting disease. It's a term that may not be on every livestock producer's radar, but with the recent detection of CWD in Georgia deer, some farmers and ranchers are wondering, could this pose a risk to my herd? After all, deer often share grazing spaces with livestock, so it's a valid concern. To help separate fact from fear, I recently spoke with Tina Johansson at the Georgia Department of Natural Resources to break down what CWD means for Georgia's wildlife, how it spreads, and most importantly, whether livestock owners should be worried. Tina Johansson, thanks so much for joining the show. Let's get right to the big controversy, worry, whatever you want to call it. Hypothetically speaking, I am a livestock producer. I've got horses in my field. I've got cattle. I've got sheep. I've got goats. I see some deer grazing towards all my livestock. Should I be concerned that my livestock is going to get CWD because of these deer?
No, is the short answer. So the good news on that front is CWD's been out on the landscape now for over 50 years in parts of the West and over 20 years in parts of the East. And there's no evidence that it infects anything other than deer, elk, and moose.
Okay.
So that's the good news, is it doesn't seem to affect people, pets, scavengers, livestock, even animals like feral pigs, where they do seem to eat it and you can find it in them. They don't seem to be putting it back out on the landscape. So That's the good news.
Okay, and let's go back to that hypothetical livestock producer here. I see a deer in my field. What am I looking for to really determine if this deer or deer, I guess deer plural, whatever, might have CWD? I mean, are they doing like backflips? Are they rolling around on the ground? Are they aggressive? What am I looking for?
So that's one of the frustrating things about it is so this disease takes 18 to 30 months from the time a deer is infected to when it will eventually die. For almost that entire period, they look perfectly healthy. And so it's not until those last few weeks that you see the wasting that gives it its name. It is a neurological disease, so it does cause literal brain damage and damage to the central nervous system. And so in those late stages, you do see what a farmer would think of as neurological symptoms. It's depressed, droopy ears, skinny, poor coat, doesn't act right, it doesn't run away like it should. It's obviously, something is wrong with it. The problem is all of those symptoms are almost identical to what you would see with blue tongue or epizootic hemorrhagic disease. Brain abscesses cause very similar symptoms, and we do have parts of the state where brain abscesses are something we'll see every couple of years in an individual deer. Those diseases aren't transmitted from deer to deer by contact the way CWD is.
Yeah, and my final question for you, Tina. I'm not a hunter per se, but I have a lot of friends, a lot of farmers are hunters. What if they're out, hunting in a CWD management area? What advice would you have for them?
So the biggest thing, and right now our chronic wasting disease management area is Berrien and Lanier counties. Okay. And so for hunting season, we'll be setting up drop-off stations. We'll have freezers where people can cut the head off of their deer, drop it in that freezer, and we will test it for them. And we will let them know as soon as we get the results back whether that deer was positive or not. If that deer is positive, the CDC does recommend that you not eat it. That's totally up to the hunter. They can do their own research and decide how they feel about it. But, the CDC, they don't take a lot of risks with human lives. So anytime a deer is sick, we tell people to discard it. So that's the biggest thing, is that if you hunt in those counties, we strongly urge people to participate in our sampling. It's voluntary, they don't have to. But one, they can find out, is my deer positive? And two, that helps us with our overall management, because we want to try to keep this in as small an area as we can for as long as we can.
For more information on chronic wasting disease and how it impacts Georgia's deer population, visit the Georgia DNR website at georgiawildlife.com/CWD.
Well, everybody, Ranger Nick, you are looking at 3 different varieties of peanuts, and coming up after the break, I'm going to explain the drying, the shelling, the grading, the treatment, and all that after this.
Hi, I'm Nick Place, and I'm the Dean for the College of Agriculture and Environmental Sciences at the University of Georgia. Today we're down at Lewis Taylor Farm to learn more about the work that they're doing in relation to produce production. They have quite an incredible operation here, doing watermelons, peppers, and tomatoes, and a whole host of other things. We're also learning about what they really need from us as a college in relation to research needs and extension needs.
The relationship that we have with the University of Georgia is by far one of the most important things we have. The research that you all do at the university, it comes back and it helps us in the end.
It's all about the connections that we have with producers and figuring out how we can really be the best research and development arm for Georgia's #1 industry, agriculture.
Holding a juvenile Juro spider. Until next time, for the Farm Monitor, I'm Ranger Nick, reminding you, like I always do, that enthusiasm is contagious. Well, you're looking high above Georgia Seed Development in Plains, Georgia, and inside of this container, this wagon, is some good old Georgia peanuts. And this month, I want to talk about some ways that we get the seed back into the ground and how that's studied. And to do it, I want to introduce you to somebody very important. That's Dr. Caleb Warrington. Hey, Dr. Warrington.
Nice to see you.
Good to see you.
Thanks
and good to meet you. Oh, I'm so glad to be here. So Caleb is Director of Operations at Georgia Seed Development. And here in this part of Georgia, y'all, I'm looking at this wagon. Caleb, I'm thinking to myself about what Georgia Seed Development does, and they deal with foundation seed. When it comes to peanuts and foundation seed, what does that mean?
We do. Now, foundation seed comes from the breeders develop the varieties. When they say that it's true to type and they're ready to release it, they literally hand off seed to us.
Okay.
And then we contract out the acreage to have that produced. And we bring that seed in here and condition it and keep it true to type. And then it goes out into the market, to our licensees. And then it hopefully becomes a winner of a variety in the state of Georgia and the Southeast. But our biggest thing here is to make sure that we keep varieties pure, true to type, and separate from each other, so that the peanut crop is successful.
Well, and that's one of the things we're going to talk about today, is keeping those varieties separate and what makes them so special to grow in different conditions. But before these things are inspected, before they're looked at and worked on, this wagon has to be dried.
Yes,
right?
sir. Yes,
so
sir.
In order to do it, we're going to use this dryer. And this dryer, Caleb, you and I were talking before, I have to take off this thing, because y'all know I like to do stuff and get the hands dirty. So I'm going to thank you, sir.
Let's do it.
We got to put this thing onto this wagon, hook this thing up, because Caleb, what's going to happen is this machine is going to pump a bunch of hot air into this wagon.
Yes, sir.
And we're going to get it to a particular temperature to dry this out. And then, as you were explaining to me earlier, I'm learning so much through this, y'all. It's gonna be across Georgia Seed Development, and we're gonna have some federal state inspection service folks
Yes, sir.
that are gonna come along and fill this bag with this dried peanut from a sample. They're gonna take it into a lab and they're gonna look at that sample for what kind of stuff?
Looking for foreign matter, other farm materials, just the overall purity and the quality of the seed. This is how farmers get paid. Basically, they get a grade on their peanuts, and that's what they're tasked with doing.
So have you ever wondered where Mount Peanut is? Here it is. Caleb, we're inside of this warehouse with this mountain of peanuts. A bunch of varieties here. What do we got?
Just one.
Okay.
This is one variety. This is Georgia 06G.
And that to you means?
That is a variety that's been around since 2006.
Okay.
It's the biggest variety in the southeast in terms of acreage and production. And this is flat storage. This is what you would call flat storage. This came off the dryer at a certain moisture, and it's kept at a constant moisture here, and then it's taken to the sheller.
So you brought up the dryer. We just saw the dryer. It comes over here in the wagons.
Yes, sir.
It's brought in here on this big conveyor belt above us and drops in. So the importance of that drying then, would it be to keep it from getting too hot, too moist and combusting? Is that possible?
Yeah, high moisture can cause a fire for
Okay.
sure. We also want to make sure that it doesn't get too dry on the dryer.
Sure.
So there's a fine line in between good seed and bad seed.
And that's the thing I don't think folks at home realize is all the science that's going in behind the scenes. And then when this stuff is ready to go somewhere, that bobcat over there is putting it into a wagon.
We pick it up and convey it out of here into a 21-foot wagon.
Okay.
And it goes over to the sheller, gets dumped in a pit, which is the same way that this operates. There's a pit out here, comes up through an elevator, comes across and fills up this warehouse.
We got a whole lot of moving and shaking going on out there, and there's no way I'd be able to hear my friend JT Tanner. Hey, JT.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing great. JT's the facility manager here. It's loud out there, but JT, we're shelling. Talk to us about what's going on with shelling these peanuts.
Well, our sheller, we start off with a cleaner or a pre-cleaner before they get to our sheller. We've got 3 stages of shelling. It goes through 2 stages and then to our gravity, and then what is still in shell goes back to our 3rd stage to get shelled. Once it leaves the gravity, it goes over to our electric eye system where it is sorted by color and just desirability of the peanut.
Now, not to stop you and interrupt you, but I gotta ask, so earlier you were showing us that AI was picking out things that aren't so good and that are so good. So in this hand, these are the ones that were kicked out by a computer?
Absolutely. We're using a new technology that runs a deep AI program that learns the colors and what you desire and what you do not desire, and it sorts it electronically.
JT, so good to meet you. I'm so thankful for you and your work and Caleb's work and for you all watching. Y'all know what to do. Hop online, look around some more at some of this nutty stuff and all the cool technology going on in ag. And until next time, for the Farm Monitor, I'm Ranger Nick, reminding you, as I always do, that enthusiasm is contagious. So pass it on. Y'all, thanks so much for watching. We'll look forward to seeing you right back here again next month. See ya. Holding a juvenile Juro spider. Until next time, for the Farm Monitor, I'm Ranger Nick, reminding you, like I always do, that enthusiasm is contagious.
Great job, Nick. And to all of you who hung with us throughout the show, you're great too. And thanks for watching.
Yes, I second that. For Jennifer and everyone here at the show, I'm Ray DeLessio saying take care, stay safe, and we'll see you next time right here on the Farm Monitor. Have a great week.